Hey, Rickover Junior High School students, it is Friday, April 17th, 2020, and this is probably the craziest career day you're ever going to experience because we're all at home on shelter in place during the coronavirus. My name is Jay Readey. I'm excited to talk to you. Career Day at Rickover is one of my favorite things now. This is my second year presenting to you. I'm really glad to tell you about what I do. And thank you for taking the time during your school day to watch this and to think about what you want to do with your life. So first, a little bit about who I am. So what's your profession? And I have an interesting life because even my own son doesn't exactly know what I do. I have a 17-year-old who was in your seat 4 or 5 years ago. And he said, what is your profession? So I am a lawyer. I'm trained as a lawyer, but I only use part of my time as a lawyer. So I call myself also a developer, an investor, a social entrepreneur. I have a business called the Metro Alliance that is at the heart of all these things I do. And I talk about creating inclusive communities through investing in inclusive communities. One of the things I really like about Rickover is that it's a school where in the building on any given day, you're spending time with students and teachers who are African American, Latina, Latino, and white. That's rare in America. The South Suburbs is a special place, and it's why I'm involved in what I do. It's because of places like Rickover and people like you. Those are the inclusive communities that I believe in investing in, because even though our communities may have some challenges, I think they represent the future of America. There's nothing but good things and upward progress for us moving into the future. And I think of myself as investing in inclusive communities as a principal, consultant, board member, investor, lawyer, all these different roles I can play to help move things forward, investing in inclusive communities. And when I say principal, I don't necessarily mean like principal at your school. I mean as someone who's at the center of a business and driving it. And I'm the principal of a couple different ventures that I'll talk about in a minute. But first, the prompt asked me to talk about my education. So I went to college at Yale University in Connecticut, and that took 4 years to get a bachelor's degree. My majors were in African American studies and American studies, so studying history, literature, and culture of America and African America through mainly the 20th century. Then I spent 6 years out in the work world, primarily working in community-based nonprofit organizations, working with young people about your age, and then young people a little bit older than you in a jobs program that became the forerunner of what I do now in much of my time. And then I went back to school, and I stayed in Connecticut and went back to Yale, went to a joint degree program between the law school, where I got a JD degree, which stands for Juris Doctor, a doctor of laws, which is the degree you get to pass the bar exam and practice law. And then I got a degree jointly at the same time at the Yale School of Management. The degree is called a Master of Business Administration, and it basically prepares you to be a leader in business, to understand finance and economics and statistics and management. And I did them together. So I thought about business in the context of law, and I thought about law in the context of business, with a particular focus on nonprofit community, nonprofit businesses, nonprofit organizations, and on community development, which is what really interests me and got me to where I am now. So what do I do now? What are the various businesses that I'm involved in as a lawyer or a consultant or a principal manager? So I put together this plate actually a few years ago. I've done this plate several times. And at the center of it, you can see my business. The TMA stands for the Metro Alliance, which is a business that I run to do consulting on different business projects and nonprofit projects and development. So I buy and fix up vacant and blighted houses, rehab them, and then either sell them to somebody else or move in a renter. And I drew all these lines to these other organizations I'm involved in, and I won't necessarily go through all of them, but they'll give you a little bit of an idea of how I organize my time. So this was my thinking about how am I going to organize my life. So I made this a year and a half ago, thinking ahead to 2020. So you see 2020 up here with a question mark. I'll talk about that in a minute. And the number 16, I'll talk about that when I come back to it too. But around the Metro Alliance, you have a number of different things that I was involved in. So GJ stands for Ginsberg Jacobs. That's the law firm where I practice law. And I mainly help on big real estate projects. And by big, I mean really big. 25, 30, $35 million projects. I was involved this last year in a $50 million project at the University of Chicago to build a trauma center on the south side. You may have heard about this because if people got shot on the south side of Chicago, many of them died because they had to go too far in an ambulance to get to a hospital that had trauma care center. And the University of Chicago hospital didn't have one for a long time. And activists on the south side were pressing for that. And our law firm helped put together the financing so that they could build that project that really changes people's lives and transforms communities. Sometimes as you drive down the highway down I-94 from Chicago toward your home in the Sauk Village area, you'll see the Pullman Community Center, which has indoor soccer fields and basketball courts. That was a $25 million project with support from the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox. And our law firm worked for the Chicago Park District to help put together the money and the land to build that community center, which was a really fantastic project. And I hope you get to go there someday. So what are some of the other businesses around here? RSL stands for Rockstall's Lodge. I run a cabin in Ohio that's on a 40-acre tree farm. So I'm a little bit of a hobby farmer, farming sustainable timber. So every 10 years or so, this is a property owned by my mom and dad. We harvest the timber from the forest, take out just what's needed for the timber harvest, and sell it to lumber makers, and then let the forest grow for 10 more years until there's more mature trees to take out. So I go there about every 6 weeks when it's okay to travel, not like right now. I go there about every 6 weeks to check out the forest, check out the cabin that's on it, and work on it. And we have a management company that rents that cabin like on Airbnb or Vacation Rental by Owner, VRBO, that brings us some income. There's several nonprofits, one called Neighborscapes that has job training programs for teenagers and housing programs for young adults on the south side of Chicago and in the south suburbs. A big one that I've been involved with for the last couple of years is SSEGI, the South Suburban Economic Growth Initiative. We're trying to strengthen the economy of the south suburbs. We've created a development authority to do big transformative developments that change the communities that we live in. We have a small business development center. It's very important right now as small businesses are trying to cope with the coronavirus challenge. And a whole bunch of other big and little projects, some of them nonprofit, some of them for-profit businesses that I help out as a consultant, as a lawyer, as a member of the board, maybe as the CEO. So I spend my days in lots of different ways. I like it because it's very interesting. I move around a lot. I get outside. I work in an office. I work on iPhone, on iPad, and I do lots of interesting things working with lots of interesting people, which made the 8 years of school that I went to worth the time to put in all that effort to learn to write well and to read quickly and process information so I could help people make good decisions. I hope you make great decisions about the career that you pursue and the rest of your school year. Good luck figuring things out in the midst of this crazy pandemic. Thanks for listening.